Hello everyone, today I want to share a story with you. A story based on real events involving airplanes in the US from the beginning of 2025 until now, as of February 28th. Imagine yourself on a flight, a comfortable seat, soft light streaming in through the window. A glance outside and see white clouds drifting lazily by, a sense of calm embracing you. Maybe you're thinking about your family, about a hot cup of coffee waiting for you upon landing, or simply closing your eyes to enjoy the moment.
I've felt that way too, hundreds of times. But now, imagine this. In just a split second, everything changes. The engines roar in an unsettling way, your seat shakes violently, and your heart pounds as if it's about to leap out of your chest. You ask yourself, what's happening? This isn't just a scenario. Since the start of this year, America has lived through moments like these. Not just once, but repeatedly, from major cities to remote, AC regions. What I'm about to share is based on official reports, but to bring the story to life, I will also imagine the emotions of the people caught in these moments. This isn't a dry news report. It's a way to truly feel the experience, to walk through the fear, the suspense, and even the glimmers of hope. If you want precise details, you can check FAA reports or major news outlets. But for now, sit back, take a deep breath, and join me on this journey.
A journey through the turbulent skies of 2025. It all began on January 29th, a day America will never forget. High above Washington, D.C., near Ronald Reagan Airport, American Eagle Flight 534-2, a Bombardier CRJ-700, carrying 64 passengers, glided over the Potomac River. I can picture the scene inside the cabin. A mother cradling her child, a businessman hurriedly typing out a final email, a young man gazing out the window, smiling at the thought of a loved one waiting at home. But then, out of nowhere, a U.S. Army Black Hawk helicopter appeared. In the blink of an eye, the two massive machines collided mid-air. A thunderous explosion shattered the sky, and debris rained down into the icy river like a storm of metal. 64 people on the plane, 3 aboard the helicopter, gone. No warnings, no final goodbyes. The headlines called it the deadliest commercial aviation disaster in the U.S. in 16 years. 16 years of peaceful skies, with no tears shed over plane crashes, until, on that bitterly cold winter day, everything came crashing down. I think of the families waiting at the airport, clutching welcome signs, their eyes lighting up with hope every time the arrival gates opened. But this time, all they heard was the sterile voice over the intercom, delivering the unthinkable news. How long did they stand there before realizing their loved ones would never walk through those doors? As if the skies weren't done testing us, on that very same day, in the frozen expanse of Alaska, an F-35 fighter jet crashed during a training exercise near Eielson Air Force Base. The pilot ejected, landing in the bone-chilling snow. He survived, and people breathed a sigh of relief. But deep down, a heavier question lingered in everyone's mind. What is happening to our skies? Still reeling from the shock in Washington, America barely had time to catch its breath before another disaster struck. Just 2 days later, on January 31st, Philadelphia was shaken by a new tragedy. A Learjet 55, Medjet's Flight 56, had just lifted off from the airport when it lost control and plunged straight into the Castor Gardens neighborhood. I imagine the scene. An ordinary afternoon, children playing in their yards, parents preparing dinner, when suddenly, a deafening explosion tore through the quiet. Fire erupted like a monstrous force, thick black smoke swallowing the sky. 6 people on board, medical professionals on a mission to save lives, along with 1 person on the ground, were killed instantly. 24 others were injured, homes reduced to rubble, swallowed by the flames. The news reported that firefighters fought desperately to contain the inferno, pushing through smoke and debris. But when the flames finally died down, all that remained was ash and the twisted remnants of what had once been. I wonder about the survivors, the families who had watched their homes turn to cinders, who had heard that explosion echo through the streets. Can they ever forget that sound? Then came February 6th. In the freezing vastness of Alaska, another tragedy unfolded. Bering Air Flight 445, A small Cessna 208B, carrying 10 passengers from Unalakleet to Nome, vanished from radar in the icy sky. Hours later, rescue teams found the aircraft resting silently beneath a thick sheet of sea ice. There were no survivors. I pictured them inside the cramped cabin, some holding hands with loved ones, others staring out the window, hoping to catch a glimpse of Nome's distant lights. But fate never gave them the chance. One victim's relative told reporters, "I just want to know what happened. Why didn't they come home?" To this day, that question remains unanswered, lost in the silence. But it didn't end there. On February 10th, in Scottsdale, Arizona, a Learjet 35A veered off the runway upon landing, slamming directly into a parked Gulfstream 200. The screech of metal on metal echoed across the dry desert air. One person lost their life, while several others lay injured amidst the wreckage. Whispers of unease began to spread. Are small airports even safe? Could we be next? That month, the skies no longer felt like a place of dreams, but a battlefield of uncertainty and peril. But even in the thickest darkness, glimmers of light still break through. On February 12th, over San Diego Bay, a U.S. Navy EA-18G Growler suddenly plunged into the water. The two pilots ejected just in time, parachuting into the churning waves below. I imagine them surfacing, gasping for air, clambering onto a bright orange life raft, laughing through tears, exclaiming, "We're alive!" On the shore, complete strangers gathered, cheering and clapping as a rescue boat pulled them to safety. A warm moment amid the storm, a reminder that not every story ends in tragedy. That same day, in St. Louis, Missouri, United Express flight GoJet 4427 skidded off the runway at 10:50 a.m. The aircraft lurched violently, passengers screamed, but miraculously, no one was hurt. Moments later, they stepped onto the icy tarmac, boarding buses, back to the terminal. I can almost hear someone chuckling, "Next time, I'm taking the train." A little humor in the midst of chaos, like sunlight piercing through storm clouds. But that brief moment of relief didn't last long. On February 17, in Toronto, Canada, Delta Flight 4819 from Minneapolis attempted to land amid powerful crosswinds. The Bombardier CRJ-900 swayed violently before flipping over on the runway. Metal screeched against the ground, glass shattered, and terrified screams filled the packed cabin of 80 passengers. I picture them, people who, just moments earlier, were thinking about a warm dinner at home, suddenly thrown into a nightmare. But then, a miracle. Everyone survived, though 21 people were injured. One passenger told reporters, "I thought I was going to die." Then, someone grabbed my hand, and together, we ran out of the wreckage. A brush with death. Can you even begin to imagine what that feels like? From January 29th until now, less than 2 months, the skies over America had been anything but peaceful. From the catastrophic collision over the Potomac River in Washington, D.C., to the frozen wastelands of Alaska, from the blazing residential streets of Philadelphia to the chaotic runways of Toronto, dozens of lives lost, hundreds of survivors left with scars, both visible and unseen. Some days were less tragic, like February 5th, when a Japan Airlines plane collided with a Delta Airlines jet on the runway in Seattle. No one was injured, yet hearts still pounded at the news. Then there were the mysteries, like the night of February 16, when a Cessna 172 crashed near Houston, Texas, at 10:45 p.m. Only the pilot was aboard, and to this day, no one knows whether he survived. The FAA investigates. The victim's family waits in silence.
But the answers remain hidden somewhere in the vast, endless sky. I wonder, and perhaps you do too, why do these things happen? Is it human error, mechanical failure, or just cruel fate? Some nights, I lie awake thinking about the people on those flights. What were their hopes, their fears? Did a mother in Washington get to hold her child one last time? Did a pilot in Alaska catch a glimpse of his home's lights before everything went dark? We may never know. But through all this pain, one thing has never been clearer. human resilience. The Fair 35 pilot who survived the frozen Alaskan wilderness. The Delta passengers who held hands as they escaped the wreckage in Toronto. The two Navy pilots laughing through tears as they bobbed in the waves off San Diego. They remind us that no matter how violently the sky shakes, we find a way to rise again, to find light in the darkness. So next time you step onto a plane, take a moment to look out the window, take a deep breath, and remember, no matter what happens, we have each other. Life is still worth living, and the sky, no matter how chaotic, remains a place where we dare to dream and soar. Thank you for listening to this story, a true story told from my heart.